morning, everyone. It's that time of year again. We're looking forward to the start of the 108th race to Mackinac, which kicks off with the cruising classes on Friday and the racing classes on Saturday. So we're going to kind of start to watch the weather here a little bit. First thing I want to just remind everyone that the forecasts that you see here are for your planning purposes. You should always monitor official forecasts and warnings to see what's happening on the lake and if there's any hazardous weather conditions that are coming. Being so far in advance, there won't be any warnings or advisories just yet, but as we get closer to the start time, the National Weather Service may begin to issue some, so we'll need to keep a close eye on what's happening on the lake and what you need to be aware of for the safety of your boat and crew. Last week I did a little comparison between the lake surface temperatures of last year around race time and this year, and on the left you see those temperatures from last year. On the right is the temperatures from this year. These are compared as of July 12th. You can see that lake was quite a bit cooler last year on average. Had a cold winter 2014-15 and kind of a slow warm-up in the spring and summer. The temperatures this year with a milder winter and the bit warmer weather through the course of the spring and summer, lake temperatures are a fair bit warmer. How does this affect the weather? Well, most importantly, it can have an impact on the lake breezes in the daytime and the land breezes at night. Typically with a cooler lake surface, we end up with stronger lake breezes and weaker land breezes. With a warmer lake surface, we have the opposite. The land breezes tend to be a bit stronger and the lake breezes tend to be a little bit weaker. So as we go forward in time here, we'll be watching that and seeing how it all compares with respect to the forecast and the large-scale features that we're monitoring for this race. With that in mind, let's take a look at the forecast charts for the week. This is where we're starting as of today, and we've got a low pressure area up over Canada with a couple of cold fronts that are moving across the lake. We're going to be watching that fairly active weather pattern going through the week here. There is a high pressure area which is going to move across the northern part of the lake today and into tomorrow. This is the forecast for tomorrow morning. You can see the frontal boundary has moved down to the south. We have a warm front out to the west, which is poised to move slowly toward the northeast over the following days. There it is on Wednesday. The high pressure now out across New England, and a warm front approaching the Great Lakes. Actually, some very warm air is going to be building up over the Central Plains, and that'll be heading toward Chicago for the end of the week. And as we go into the forecast now for Thursday, we see that warm front continues to progress closer to Chicago. We've got low pressure over the northern plains and a developing southwest flow that's going to be pushing warmer air in toward the Western Lakes region. And now for Friday, this is basically our start time for the cruising class. We see that warm front has moved past Chicago, is lying across Michigan at this time, and a stationary boundary which extends to another low pressure area over the northern plains. So we'll have some hot weather and southwest winds on Friday. It looks like the cruising class will be taking off in a pretty hot pattern, so being out on the lake will be a pleasant relief from that. And also it looks like there will be some southwest winds. We'll have to wait closer to the day to see what that means in terms of lake breezes for the afternoon on Friday when the cruising class starts to make their trip up toward Mackinac. The weather starts to get a bit active going into Saturday, and there's lots of variables here in the forecast, and it's early days yet, so this could change rather significantly as we go along here in time. So we really need to just kind of get a feel for what the big picture is doing and what the important weather features are, and watch how they evolve over the next few days. But for Saturday, right now, the forecast is calling for a low pressure area to be over Iowa, basically, and that frontal boundary kind of lying across the central part of Lake Michigan. Now, the forecast calls for this low to kind of move to the northeast and then a secondary cold front will push down behind that low as it moves away to the east. This could be a fairly active weather pattern, and by that I mean there could be some significant thunderstorms developing out ahead of this low as it moves to the northeast. So we'll be probably talking about storms or some potentially hazardous weather for the day on Saturday, both affecting the boats already headed toward the lake, headed toward the island on from the cruising start, but also for the boats starting on Saturday. Now the timing of all this is quite up in the air, and we'll see that in a second. One of the models actually shows this system somewhat more advanced by this time on Saturday, and we could just be looking at a cold front moving across the lake shortly after the start on Saturday. So we'll need to keep an eye on timing here as we go forward. And here's the forecast for Sunday. Shows that shows the low pressure all out to the east by this time. That secondary front moving south across the lake, and then high pressure coming in. So a little push of stronger northerly after the fronts go through, and then early next week it looks like high pressure is going to be settling back across the lake with some calmer conditions for early next week. So it looks right now like we could have kind of a boisterous start to the race with some weather moving across the lake on Saturday, and then calming conditions moving into early next week with this high pressure area. So let's take a look quickly at the wind field forecast. And so what we're looking at right now is the forecast for Friday, about the time that the cruising fleet is going to start. And at this time, we've got low pressure over the plains. We have a sort of frontal boundary sitting up here to the north, and we have a broad southwest flow coming in to the picture from the central plains. So like I said, very warm weather, and a moderate southerly on the lake, or southwesterly on the lake. Now we go forward in time here. We'll go into Friday evening. We see that southwesterly kind of build on the lake, and this is one of the more advanced forecasts. We see the low kind of moving further to the north and up across toward Lake Superior, and the cold front kind of draping down to the southwest at this time, so that by Saturday afternoon that front will be approaching the lake. This is the forecast now for about 1 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. We've got the low up here north of Lake Superior. There's sort of a secondary low across the straits, and the cold front extending down like this, and that'll be moving through. So we could see some strong southwesterly winds for our start. Again, we need to remember that these are early days and the forecast is very likely to change, but what the models are telling us at this point is that the weather is going to be very active for Saturday, and we may see some potentially big changes moving across the lake around or somewhat shortly after start time on Saturday. So again, just keep monitoring the forecast. Don't get too excited about any particular pattern at this point, and we'll no doubt see the forecast change, but hopefully coalesce in a somewhat more reliable picture. Moving into Saturday evening, the front moves to the east of the lake, and so the front now is somewhere in this area out across Lake Huron in southern Michigan, and the winds shifted toward the northwest. So it looks like a gusty northwesterly will settle across the lake in this forecast for Saturday night into Sunday. And then we start to look out to the east, and there's that high pressure area, which is basically up across the Dakotas at this time, and that's going to be moving toward the lake. So with the departing front out here and the high pressure approaching from the west, we get a broad, sort of moderate to fresh northwest flow moving across the lake, and then that gradually eases as we go into Sunday and on Monday, especially as that high pressure area moves closer to the lake. It takes some time, still northwest flow, moderate across the northern half of the lakes on Monday, but then during the day on Monday we see that breeze ease off as the high settles in across the lake by Tuesday morning. So again, that's the look of things at the moment. No doubt the forecast will change, but as we get closer to the start time, we should be able to get a little bit more detailed and hopefully get a little bit better handle on the forecast. And looks like it's going to be an interesting race. Look forward to seeing everybody out there on Friday at the skippers meetings, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.